Hi, today I'll be reviewing Brave Not Perfect, Fear Less, Fail More, and Live Bolder by Reshama Saujani. So she is the founder of Girls Who Code, which they have a program at our library, so I'm kind of familiar with it. But one thing that I really found interesting about the author is that she started the Girls Who Code without knowing anything about computers or without knowing anything about coding at all. So that was definitely a jump start into being brave and not perfect, because obviously you're not going to know everything about something that you've never done before. She also ran for Congress and did not get elected, so she also had kind of a leg up on this whole Brave Not Perfect field. So I really respected her coming out with a book called Brave Not Perfect. I had some issues with it, which we'll get to later, but I want to start with a high note. So some things that I really found helpful with this book, I feel like she had some pretty good advice. So the first half of it, I would say she kind of went through and described how society, especially American culture, raises girls to be kind of reserved and polite and respectful and nice and kind and all of these great, quote unquote, wonderful things. But when they're little, that is, it serves them well, but when they get older and are in the workforce and are trying to advocate for themselves and get a better job and get a raise, they're kind of conditioned their entire life to not want to hurt people's feelings and not want to come off as too abrasive or bitchy or whatever. And so it's kind of like the whole cultural aspect of conditioning our young girls to be perfect and to not take risks, and then we do the opposite for boys. So for boys on the playground, we're saying, yeah, climb the monkey bars, go down the slide, jump off this really high, whatever. And if they fall and get hurt, we teach them to just get back up and walk it off and keep going. Whereas with girls, we kind of coddle them a little bit more and kind of baby them a little bit. So then they never really learn to do things for themselves. And then, so it's just kind of like this vicious cycle where we're constantly relying on others. And so she's kind of telling people to break the mold, to jump out of your comfort zone, to do something that you may not be perfect at, and that's okay, to take that risk, and to kind of advocate for yourself and not, it's okay if you fail, to learn from your mistakes, which girls and women are definitely not really taught to do, especially in American culture. So I overall, I really enjoyed this book. The one issue, well, I had a couple issues, but one major issue I had with it is after I read the book, I watched her TED Talk, which is about 12 minutes, and she really perfectly summarized this entire book in 12 minutes. So if you don't want to read this book and you want to save yourself some time, just watch her TED Talk. It's perfect. It's great. It's not perfect. It's brave. But that is one thing. It kind of felt like I was reading somebody's paper for school where the professor told them that they had to write 12 pages and they only had 2 pages of content, but they were just kind of like dragging it out to make it fit the parameters. It was kind of like that for this, where she was just kind of it was pretty repetitive, and she was kind of saying the same thing over and over, just in a little bit different way. Another thing that kind of irked me about this book was it was a lot of personal experiences. So she met with a lot of high school students and with other women in her community, and kind of shared their stories. And I feel like it could have been a little bit more scientific, like a little bit more research-based, a little bit more. I really like knowing statistics about things like what percentage of girls grow up knowing XYZ. So that was one thing that I felt was kind of lacking out of this book. Another thing that kind of bothered me was her examples from her own self were very lukewarm. Like there was nothing major or shocking. And it also kind of felt like it was more catered towards women in the like high-powered business community, which I feel like was not the person that would pick up this book generally. So, because those people I feel like are already pretty brave and willing to take risks and make mistakes and learn from them and, you know, have their voice be heard. Whereas if the person that is reading this book that would pick it up based on the title is probably not going to be able to relate to any of the experiences or anecdotes that she shared. But overall, I really liked the message of the book. I just wish it was either too long or I needed more or something different. So I think overall I would probably rate it as a book a 2, but I would rate the message about a 5 because I really enjoyed the message. So anyway, this was Brave, Not Perfect, and it was by Reshama Saujani.